they own things. They own stock. They own land. And so then what they do is they never get rid of the thing. What they do is they borrow against it.
Welcome to New Dimes Radio.
Liz, we are so excited to have you here as our guest. Liz Hanley, founder and head accountant at Liz's All Biz Inc., established her firm 15 years ago. She is New Dimes accountant as well as my personal family accountant. Driven by a desire to serve clients she felt were overlooked due to their gender, race, immigration status, or industry, she left her corporate role as a single mother to build a business that now serves over 1,000 clients. She prioritizes education, both for her clients and her team, and has developed a robust internal training program that has launched LIAB alumni into a wide network of their own all-female accounting firms, which is so New Dimes. Such a dime move. A mother of 3, accomplished young woman, Liz is also a dedicated housing advocate. She leverages her financial expertise to advance housing equity in rural communities, co-founding a super PAC in New York to promote a pro-housing ballot initiative. She specializes in assisting her rural communities in navigating complex state and federal funding opportunities in the millions for affordable housing initiatives. Today, we are diving into one of the most emotionally charged but powerful parts of wealth and wealth building, and that is our taxes. How do we pay them in the smartest, most values-aligned way? What do the ultra-wealthy know that the rest of us don't? And how can we, as first-generation wealth builders, use the same system to create long-term financial advantage? Liz, we are so excited to have you. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so psyched. I hope folks listening can hear the joy and in all of our voices, but mostly in Liz. I hope you heard the theater there, because I'm just so excited to talk to an actual tax professional that makes me excited to talk about taxes. I know I'm probably preaching to the head of the choir here, but it is refreshing to speak to a tax professional that makes me go like, she gets it, and I would be like entertained and comforted by her education.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I love what I do, which is why I've been doing it for so long. I literally couldn't think of anything else that I would rather do. It is so rewarding to help people and communities that I care about, like, navigate this, hold on to more of their money. And I think taxes can be so disempowering. And I always say, like I said, I've got 3 girls, and, I was like, this is not calculus. Like, if you understand addition, subtraction, and understand the concept of like a fraction, like, you can get this. Like, this is knowable. So
this is knowable. That's just healing. Like, not even realizing that we have wounds where it comes to taxes. I'm like, you're healing them already. So hyped to talk to you. We open our New Dimes Radio episodes with the same question. So I'm going to kick things off with you with this question. How are you and your wealth doing today?
Me and my wealth are doing great. I am really excited to be at the end of a tax season and to just get to spend like 2.5 months planning for my next thing and just kind of enjoying the fruits of my labor with my family. So yeah, I'm doing great. Really grateful for it.
It's amazing. Just to set some context for folks who are listening, we're recording this like 3 days after extended tax season just ended. So Liz could have been like, you can
2
all
days.
F off. 2 days.
Yeah.
Liz could have been like, I'm barely a human. You could all F off for the next 2 months. But out of the kindness of her heart and also the passion of what she does, she's here talking with us. So we're just psyched to dig into this. And for myself, selfishly, I was really excited to talk to you. One, because when I've seen you and listened to you explain tax concepts before, like in meetings with us and in interviews you've done, I'm like, oh, she gets it. I understand. My brain is happy listening to this person. And I think a lot of us find ourselves in quite the fuckery spiral. May I say that?
Yeah.
And when it comes to taxes in general, I think it's a lot of people see taxes as something to run away from or to ignore or to fear. And in the year of our shenanigans 2025, I think a lot of us are just not feeling aligned also with how our
Mhm.
federal or state tax dollars are being spent. So selfishly, my big overarching question for you that I want to kick off with is values aligned taxes how. We would love your help in figuring out what tax moves we can do or we must do, and overall what kind of agency we truly have in a time where a lot of us feel like the answer is zero. So I know this might be a little bit of a giant question, but just to kick us
No,
off,
yeah.
is there such thing? Like, is in real life for real, for real? Is there values aligned taxes, or is that crack dream?
I wish that was more of a thing.
Uh-huh.
Let's just be so
Please.
there's like kind of two things. So there's which I think aligns with most people's like innate tax strategy, which is like I would like to pay the least tax. I would
Mm,
like to pay the least taxes because that is just what I would like to do. I would like to hold on to those dollars that I made.
right.
And secondly, I'm not totally sure about where those dollars are going. So
Mm,
we're always gonna, at least for me, it's like I'm always assuming that we're trying to pay the least that we can. Now, there is I'm probably not the girl to talk about tax protests. There's a lot of other folks out there that do. And I'm going to just approach this from like a really pragmatic point of view.
please.
I work with businesses. That is the heart of what I do is I work with small and medium-sized businesses, and one of the things to just be straightforward about is if you are going to, do a tax protest, by which most people mean not paying your taxes, there's going to be basically blowback for your business that
Mm,
for most people is just not worth it.
mm,
So
Yeah.
there's like the notices, which are scary, and usually they will escalate into levies onto your account. It can mess with your credit, and that's just and I will just tell you that most of that is automated. So
mhm.
there's not really a lot that you can do about it. And I wish I had a better answer for you, but that is in fact the real answer.
The entire process is automated, so as soon as you don't pay your taxes, then you're kind of in an
Yeah.
automated.
Yeah, so
I see.
basically and especially now where they have cut so much funding from the IRS, you are less and less likely to be able to speak to someone at
Mhm,
the IRS to put your account on hold or register your protests or any of those things. It is just, I wouldn't say infinitely hard, but we're approaching there to
mm,
actually speak to an agent, which is what you would need to do to try to mitigate some of those consequences.
mm,
So for most people, I would say as business owners, it is
Mhm.
probably untenable. And I wish that it weren't, but
that
that,
Yeah.
is what it is.
yeah, it just kind of, it's like death and taxes. It's like,
Yes. It
Mhm.
feels like it's at least confirming that the question is, can we? And you're telling us, not really, or at least not in a way that maybe is worth the squeeze of the juice for
that's
what we
kinda
want to do.
yeah, yeah, so, I mean, and, like, let's think about, like, as, really approaching this, like I said, a lot of my vantage point is from, like, a business owner. So, we're either not paying our personal taxes, right? Or, which would have effects on us personally if we're part of a business, that could affect our business. And then, we're talking about, like, payroll taxes, which are for other people, right? And so, it's it's a stickier wicket, you know? So it's not no, but it's just like I guess for most people that have brought it up to me, it's just like, how much consequences are you willing to take? Right?
Mm,
And I think different people are gonna have different answers.
One strategy, and this is definitely more from a personal tax
Mhm.
strategy question, is one question that's come up I've seen like on the internets, right, or conversation around on the socials is really around how can I add more friction to the process? So it's not assumed that I'm paying the bill immediately and maybe the IRS will not have to work a little bit here to get what is owed to them. and I'm going to add friction and work and make it more difficult to them. I'm asking this is like, is that actually at least some semblance of a tactic that people can take? Or now with this automated sort of consequences or system that you just kind of get slated into, is that actually potentially really less, you know, it's less successful because you will actually have harder consequences sooner or more automatically, and you can't course correct or disrupt?
Yeah, I would say the latter. So I would say for the most part, obviously, there's a lot of taxpayers in the US. So that's like, this isn't going to be everyone's experience. But for most people, you file that return um, and it's either processed electronically, that's most of us, or it's processed, in paper and then it goes into the system. And then the system kind of does what the system does, right? So it goes in, it says, oh, you owe X. And there is either a payment that came with that or there is not. And if there is not, you will get a notice. And then there's just kind of a waterfall effect of things that happen until you can interrupt that. And so instead of it making friction for the IRS, it's going to be friction for you as you try to get to an agent to interrupt that process. Now, I'm not saying that folks might not want to do that. Their collection process is, for the most part, automated.
Could you speak a little bit to what those consequences are? You mentioned like levy, you mentioned like kind of friction, the automation. I'm curious if there are any rebels in the house being like, let's go,
Yeah.
let's fight. Like
Yeah,
what is
let's do it,
what
right?
they're-
So you're going to get like a series of escalating notices, right?
Mhm.
Escalating scarier notices. Some of them will start to come certified. It depends. Like, and I've met a lot of people through my career who have like blown them off, and that's cool. And then what happens is at a certain point, they will just levy your account.
And
Meaning
what does levy mean in
Yeah.
It
plain
means they
English?
go into your bank account
snatch.
and and so basically what'll happen is, there's usually like, I think it's like a 90 or 60 day. So you'll get an intent to levy. So
Oh.
like I said, you'll get escalating notices and then you'll get one in the mail. And so for a lot of people, they're just like throwing them away when they get them. But once you get to that point, you need to get ahead of it because they will just go into your bank account and take those dollars, which is pretty, that's usually at which point someone who has been avoiding their taxes, that's usually when I get the call.
Mm-hmm.
God, the one that they're like, Liz, help. And they're coming in.
They're like, I didn't know that much. And I was like, did you file? Or, did you, whatever it was? And they're like, and then we have to like unravel it from that point, which is more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we're talking about when they come in and they levy, AKA snatch, what I'm calling it in my head.
Mhm.
Are they taking exactly what you're owing them, what they think they're owed? What if there isn't enough in that account? Can the
Then
levy
they'll
go
just come
beyond your
back.
bank? No. Oh, they'll just come back.
Yeah.
Base.
They'll just come back till you put some like your next paycheck hits or whatever. And those
Yikes.
usually at that point, hopefully you've called them and like had some kind of dialogue. Like I'm hoping there's not a second snatch, that's not good, but I have seen it.
And for our W-2 dimes, my understanding is, but I wanted to verify this with you, is that they can actually contact your employer and
Oh, yes. And I
Wow.
will tell you, so that's the other thing. So they can both levy your bank accounts. And if you're just not paying it, what they'll do is they'll contact your employer and your employer will be obligated to withhold your back taxes.
No.
So they'll just start taking a cut of your paychecks. That's how that works.
My God. And are there penalties and fees associated with that too? I'm
Oh,
imagining
yes.
they're not just taking what's owed.
There's penalties, there's fees, there's interest. And so then what happens, and again, like I said, as a business owner, I just this is why I don't recommend it. Just my opinion, is because not only are you potentially looking at like levies, or you could be looking at, withholding from your paycheck, just such a great point. But at that point, because you haven't paid, they've now put the fees and the fines and the interest, and then they start compounding that.
Woof. So It
Yeah.
just
So,
works.
you might have owed several $1,000s, but by the time you finally get to making those arrangements or are forced to make those arrangements, that number could be double or more. And now you have to, so then people go, well, that's not
Really?
fair. I only owed you $3,000 or whatever. And they're just like, you blew us off for 2 years and now it's 8. So here we are, and now you have to negotiate with them. And they're like, why should we waive any of this stuff? Like, well, you
There's no
can.
laws that protect folks about how.
Well, your taxes are due when they're due, right?
Hmm.
So they levy interest and there's penalties for not paying and fines for late payment and all that kind of stuff. So the interest you can usually never get waived. You can negotiate to get some of those penalties and fines, sometimes totally taken off, sometimes a little bit. But again, that's going to require a conversation with an agent. And that is harder and harder. And it also depends on like what agent you get and how their day is going,
Oh my
So
God. Not that.
you want to be like real nice when you call if you
If
have
you've
to do
got the
something like
time and the energy
if
at
you
that
got the
point.
time. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I will
Okay.
also say I do want to say something.
Please.
Most of the IRS agents are actually really nice and helpful. And I know that that's like a hot take and maybe unpopular, but as a person who calls the IRS regularly over the last 20 years, I would say a majority of those folks that answer the phone are really actually trying to help you. So if you just come in with a good attitude, you're going to get really far. Now, some of them are giant jerk face sandwiches and you just should be like, I'm having a bad connection and call back. But most people are going to try to help.
Gotcha. It sounds exactly like how I would and have renegotiated phone bills and like regular
Mhm.
customer service, where it's kind of luck of the draw, except it sounds like the consequences here totally copy that, very dire.
Yeah.
Is there any other way that we can align our tax strategy with our values? Maybe we're like, okay, fine, tax protest, maybe too rich for my blood.
Mhm.
But if we're like thinking about the kind of society and future we want to fund, we might be far from that inside of this
Mhm.
tax structure. But is there any
Right.
other way we can be intentional with our tax dollars?
I would say probably not with your tax dollars,
Mm,
but that doesn't mean that you can't be intentional with your financial strategy.
yeah.
Right? So it doesn't mean that you can't be intentional in if you run a business, how you run your business, or if you do investments, of how you invest, or you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you can't be intentional with all of your dollars. And so, I would say it's be part of a broader strategy to maybe, defer some of your income or send it kind of other places so that it's not taxed, but it's not
Mhm.
necessarily around taxes, but around a broader strategy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that leads us into the next question about the 2 paths or
Yeah.
other paths.
Yes, and this again is, slightly selfish. I mean, everything we do at New Dimes feels slightly selfish
Yeah.
because I really believe in everything we're thinking about, but the 2 paths that we're kind of looking at and that I think your experience is so specific to is,
Mhm.
W-2 girlies and 1099 girlies. Those of us who work for
Yeah.
businesses, those of us who own our own business, and you were just talking about, like, maybe your overall financial strategy, there's some work that could be done there if it isn't directly tax protest. And
Mhm.
so our New Dimes audience, we're sort of folks who are we've gotten past survival mode and we're
Yeah.
folks who are now building that first generation of legacy wealth. And there's a lot of basics that many of us don't know, whether you're W-2 or 1099. And so let's focus on W-2 folks first. A
Yes.
lot of us are getting that level of generational wealth by like grinding. And so I want to ask you, for us W-2 girlies, what are some of the biggest missed opportunities you see every year? A lot of us are like, okay, retirement contributions, do my taxes, make my CPA happy, and then run.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
else should we be doing to kind of bulk things up?
Yeah, so this is great. So I would say this is the W-2 as you're kind of building that wealth is actually the hardest place to be,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Because W-2 wages are going to be subject to the highest effective tax rate that you can get. So it is just by its nature going to be the most difficult tax heavy situation that you could find yourself in. So my advice would be around, I mean, I'm assuming you're doing all the stuff, you're maxing out your retirement, you're doing all that business, right?
Well,
My
actually,
advice,
just to slow us down real quick, there's
Mhm.
only a handful of things we can max out, right?
Yeah. So
Can
it depends on what
you
your employers, yeah, so it's gonna depend on what your employer is gonna offer. So most folks, I'm assuming maybe you're in a corporate or corporate adjacent
Mhm, mhm,
situation, right? So I wanna see you maxing out your retirement account. I want you to be putting that money away tax, probably at this point, you're probably gonna be putting it away maybe pre-tax, maybe you're doing a little bit of a mix of pre and post-tax. Just to kinda take about, like, a minute on, like, the tax strategy kind of point or the tax protest point of view. If you feel mad about where your tax dollars are going, a Roth is probably not for you right now, right? Right?
mhm,
Because that's paid with post-tax dollars. So if you're mad, if you're big mad, you're doing pre-tax,
mhm,
right? Because 'Cause you're gonna
mhm,
reduce your taxable income.
mhm,
Now, I'm not saying
mhm.
that a Roth isn't great and it's not part of a strategy, right? But that would
That's
be,
one
like, one
place,
way to
yeah.
switch. Yeah, you can push your money into pre-tax. You're
Mhm,
doing your health savings accounts, you're doing flexible spending accounts. If any of these are available to you, put that cash in there, right?
mhm, and 529 accounts, that's really the only options, there's 4, right?
Well, 529
No.
accounts, they're like a Roth, but for education.
Oh, that's true, they
Right?
are.
Okay. So a Roth,
That's
it's
a good
basically you're
point.
taking your post-tax dollars and they're gonna grow, which is cool
Mhm,
because as, a mom of 3, I currently have 1 in college, but I will have 2 in college for, like, a period of, like, 9 years, just,
Wow.
like, kill me now. I'll be doing tax returns forever. Um, but that it's gonna grow tax-free when you take it out. So 529 is awesome, but you like I said, you wanna think about it as a Roth for education.
mhm. That's a great way of thinking of it, I never thought of it that way. Okay.
Yeah, that is blowing my mind because, again, as some financial education girly, and we're trying to be smart about growing our wealth,
Mhm.
Roth is always something that all the financial educators talk about. Of just, it's the smartest, it's the most flexible. But in terms of new dimes, like mild tax protest, we're
Yeah.
actually that's
Yeah,
And
you wanna
not.
build.
these times we're living in.
Hmm.
Yeah, you wanna put all your money away pre-tax because you don't wanna pay taxes on it now. That's the point.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh God, my
I like
feelings.
that one.
Okay,
That's a nugget. Alright, alright.
I hurt my feelings a little bit, but I did ask the question. We did ask what it
I know,
is.
I know.
It's an
Okay, so
imperfect
here's the
system.
other thing that I had to say to my W-2 girlies, please.
Mhm.
I know. I know that it makes sense and it's so easy to do your taxes and think about your income and you just get this check and the taxes are taken out of it and it's like easy peasy. You need to figure out how you're going to take some of that W-2 income and change it into non W-2 compensation income. You need to be making a plan to be getting into having asset based income.
Tell us more about that.
Okay. Because it's a lower effective tax rate. You are just always just going to get killed on a W-2. You're just going to do it. And if that's how we have to get there, that's how we're going to get there. But you need an off ramp, at least a partial off ramp. So you need to be thinking about an investment strategy, right? You need to be getting into making money off of assets.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
So this kind of goes into, and, like, obviously, you're not gonna be making, like, all your money off of assets, like, right away, but, like, what is the path you need to be, like, checking out? That's where
mhm,
you need to be going, right? So when I say asset-based income, we could be talking about stocks, right? You could be investing, get yourself a good financial, planner, to do that. You could be looking at, trying to work on having, you wanna be looking at, like, interest in income, dividend income.
mm,
You could be looking at, if you get to a point where you could think about getting property and making
mm,
passive income off of rentals, right?
Mhm,
Those are
mhm,
all, so you really wanna be and here's the thing is it's like, it's a little scary because it's complicated, but that is truly gonna be your path out.
mhm,
Right? Because those tax rates are so much lower. For my W-2 girlies, right? So let's say we're doing good, we're doing really good. Well, we're paying federal taxes, we're paying employment taxes, we're paying state taxes.
Mhm.
You are probably at a 40 to 45% bracket all in.
It just made me
Mhm.
sick physically.
No,
Right?
it's
Like,
true. Our
because you
tax
yeah.
Right.
So the only way to
kills
get
me.
out, and that's just what it is. That's
Mhm.
just what it is. So you have to get your income into different buckets. That's lower. Like, we're talking like, somewhere in like the 10 to 20% range, right? So
Mhm.
that's like capital gains. You're going to run from like the top rate's 20%.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. The
This is
top rate of a capital gain is 20%?
Yeah, for like long terms.
Okay.
So,
As in the
so you get,
tax rate.
the tax rate. So,
Mm.
if you're thinking about, if you were making, if you have to set yourself on a path. And
Mhm.
again, it's a slow path, but
Mhm.
we're both building,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so you need to get the cash out of this. Basically you need to be thinking about how you're going to take those extra dollars that maybe you have as you're building your wealth and get them into assets that can make you money.
Mhm.
I will now go into my municipal bonds, which I love.
Please, please
Okay.
take the
Tell us
stage.
I
more.
feel so strongly, and this is actually something that the really wealthy do. So what you do is you can buy bonds, municipal bonds. Your financial planner can help you. They don't necessarily offer the craziest rates on interest. So basically what happens is it's municipal bonds. It's like your town or your city or whatever is bonding to build a bridge or do a
Mhm.
thing, right? And so they pay an interest rate. That interest is tax free.
Oh,
Wait, okay.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Walk us through this. So, Bay Bridge, we're
Okay.
building the Bay Bridge.
We're
I'm just like
building
a
the Bay
stupid
It's
Bridge.
parent.
like
We're building the
it's
Bay Bridge.
okay. It's like
I'm into
So
it.
what?
we're
$3
San
trillion
Francisco. We got to build
dollars?
the
No.
bed. Yeah, it's one squidrillion dollars. So
Sure.
we're
Yeah.
going to
Okay.
bond for one squidrillion dollars.
Got
Got
And you
it.
were like, I would love to give you some money towards that one
it.
squidrillion dollar pot,
Mhm.
right? So what's going to happen is they're going to say like, I'm going to take your money for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
But I'm going to agree to pay you X amount in interest.
Mhm.
Now, here's the thing. The interest rate will be pretty good. It won't be super sexy, right?
Mhm.
But it's tax free because
As
it's
Mm.
in the interest that they pay you is tax-free income.
Why?
What?
Why? That feels like a scam. It feels like I'm
Yeah.
gonna
because
get
they
my
want
hands
What?
because they're trying to incentivize people to lend to local governments, right?
Oh.
that are like, we also live in like the same county. So
Yes, we
and I
do.
think we're like,
Mhm.
well, if we're talking about investing in
Well,
like
and
In
here's the
our
municipal
other
bonds.
city.
yeah, and so that is like literally a way that you can do it that is helpful for you. And like I said, is it the
Sexy.
sexiest interest rate you've ever seen? It's
Right.
not, but it's the tax.
What, like 5% or like
It's going to be
2?
depend on when the project goes up. So
Mm.
The project. Oh my gosh. I'm so soothed and intrigued right now because as you were saying, like asset-based income, I'm like, oh, these are all the things that typical like millennials are terrified of, right?
yeah,
Buying property,
yeah,
like investing in the
Buying a
stock market,
business.
buying
Yeah.
a business, and we'll get to our 1099 self-employed folks in a
hmm
second
hmm
too. But all those things that like almost like older generations were like, you got to buy a house and you need to be a property owner and you got to be a landlord and that's how you build wealth. And we're like, especially being in the Bay Area, we're like,
I
where,
know.
what, how?
Yeah.
And so even as you're saying that, I was like, damn, I'm going to take that to my financial planner and be like, how do you make this less scary for me? But this municipal
yeah.
bonds thing feels a little more
And
Attainable.
here's
palatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
we just go baby step your way in there, and even with like that interest and dividend income, you don't have to start with like $100,000. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean? Like you could just like, and even if you are going into an investment that's just going to pay out interest or dividends, and they're not municipal, which you know that I love, um, it's still going to be a much lower effective rate, right?
Hmm.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Are there any catches to this, to the
Yeah.
municipal bonds? Like, why is it
Like,
not?
can you not
Why,
get paid back?
yeah, I'm like, well, why aren't the TikTokers pushing this and they're pushing crypto?
Usually it's locked up for a while. Like you
Oh,
can't ditch
Okay.
it, right?
But they
wild
must
project.
pay you back with interest. It's not like if it goes belly up, for example, our super speed rail here in California, will it happen? Will it not? Do we know? But it's not like they won't pay you back.
Yeah, so I mean, I would talk to your financial planner just to make sure that
Okay.
it's like a
Long.
term or something that works for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like everybody sleeps on municipal bonds.
Yes, clearly. Never even heard of it. The gram is not talking about it.
I
TikTok
was
is
gonna
not
say.
talking
No,
about
I
it.
know it's not as sexy, but here we are. And I
I
like,
love it.
I do a lot of housing work, and so I'm often thinking about bonding, and I'm just like, it's the best. Everybody, I was like, I'm gonna make an opportunity for you to anyway.
I
But that's,
love
I mean,
that. I mean,
fantastic. We like we
also call us.
yeah.
Yeah.
You send us that email when the
Okay. Yeah. I
next
was just
bond.
like, I was like, we're bonding out here. I
Yes,
was like, I got to put up
I
some
love it.
affordable units. Yeah.
Bond
I
me
love it.
up because I do feel like, again, as the scared millennial, we're being told so much, like, get your passive income. But a lot of us are like paralyzed with our dollars that, one, are new to us. And we're like, how do we build? And then two, all the options sound terrifying and like falling apart in front of our eyes. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be asking about this one for sure. Um, and also just like bless you for being passionate about
Yes.
something like municipal bonds, because I think we're just, again, from the TikTok, like, finance bros, all these other things that sound terrifying. And I'm very, very intrigued about this.
Mhm.
Now, the other thing I was thinking about when you were saying
Mhm.
like asset-based income, like taking your W-2 and investing it in something that makes you money, my backwards ass went ass backwards and was like, I'm going to take my W-2 money and make myself a business. This is not passive, as you know. It's like the most active type of income. But then
Mhm.
you might become self-employed. You might be a 1099 girly. Are there smart ways to structure your income, your tax strategy, your business expenses that you see a lot of 1099 or self-employed folks missing?
That's such a big one. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to say, the first thing I'm going to say is do not start a business so that you can take a loss to do off your, like to lower your taxes.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I hate
Not,
this.
not,
Also, do you think that like you're just spending money? So if you're
yeah.
going to spend money, like spend money, enjoy it, have fun. What is this that you're trying to do? Like, oh,
I see.
and
You're
also you
Mhm.
saying
think
that,
that,
sorry, to clarify, you're saying people are like, I'm going to start a business so that I can quote unquote write things off.
yeah.
That's what you're
I
saying.
was
Yes.
like, I was like, do you think the IRS is not going to figure this out?
Mm, interesting. So start a business that does make money.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Also, yeah.
Start a business if you want to start a business. And here's the thing. It's not for everybody. And also, that's okay.
Mhm.
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 And that's the other part of it is I feel like you see so much of this stuff on like social where everyone's like, you've got to start a business. And here's the thing. I will just tell you, as someone who's worked in this world for 20 years, it's not for everybody. And that's okay. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you or it's some kind of value judgment. It's not
Mhm.
for, I don't even just,
It's just,
it's
yeah.
just not for everybody. And it's okay if it's not, but don't try to force yourself into it. If it's for you, it can be great. It can be
Mhm.
awesome. But if you are a W-2, you know what I mean? Like you want to do something else, like maybe you're going to get involved with investing. Maybe you're going to do something else. Like there's lots of opportunities. You hear all this stuff online, and I just always like encourage people to step back. Like you know yourself.
Mhm.
You know what you're
Mhm.
good at, what you feel comfortable with, and like take that into account as you're listening to things. Because all of that advice, some of that advice might be for you, but some of it's not. And really, you kind of know which is which, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's an
Mhm.
expensive thing to try. I have a lot of friends who are like myself, or like
Hmm.
myself about 6 months ago, 1099 and self-employed, and taxes are the bane of our existence, especially since a
Hmm.
lot of us went into it being like, I'm a creative. I'm going to create.
Yeah.
And now it's like, now do your bookkeeping. And it's like, no, hate that. What? And now
Right.
speaking to my 6 months ago self, are there things that you're like, I wish those who have chosen the 1099 or self-employed life and they're in it, they just don't love the
Mm.
the bookkeeping part. Any strategies that they should be more aware of?
Well, here's the thing, it's a full package.
Mm,
So this is where I always talk to people about getting really real about it. Like you can hire a bookkeeper. You can hire someone to do, maybe you don't like advertise, whatever the part is that you don't like to do, but you are either going to do it yourself or you are going to pay for it to be done.
mhm,
So you should either decide that that is like worth paying paying somebody, and when you get to a certain point, you probably should be paying. Um, but there's always going to be a part of it that you're going to have to own because your HR, your finance, your
Mhm.
advertising, your customer support, your
Talent.
all those things, your talent
Your
acquisition. So
IT.
if your IT, right? So if you're like, that's not for me, then that's not for you. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to be great at it, but you have to, like, understand in your bones that you're gonna have to do all those jobs. Like,
Yeah.
we are fully remote, but, like, I run a pretty large business, and guess who cleaned the bathrooms? I clean the bathrooms because
Mhm.
you do everything, like, the buck stops with you.
Yep. Gotcha. Know thyself, basically.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And like I
Fair.
said, it's cool. You don't have to enjoy it, but
Yeah. You have
you
to
gotta,
know
like,
that you're
know
doing
that
it.
it's, like you gotta be, like, understand.
When I was 1099 though, like, it felt like I had so much more agency when it came to taxes. And
Oh,
even
yeah.
things like my retirement, right? I could
Mhm.
save so much more for
Yep.
retirement, right? Like, the cap was something like $50,000, right?
Well, it's
Whereas
20% of your net if
okay.
you're a Schedule C or a single member LLC. So it's,
Mhm.
like, up to, right, 56 or $7,000. So you do so here's the thing. So you do if, like, I always think of it, like, in terms of, like, my teenage daughters, right? So you
Mhm.
have, like, a lot more agency, but you also have a lot more responsibility. Like, those
That's
2
right.
things come hand in hand. Like, you get a
Yeah.
car, but now you have to, like, drive your sisters around. So, like, there you
Mhm.
are. Similar kinda thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let's kinda talk about, like, 1099 folks, right? So, there are a lot more things that you can start to write off. You could write off part of your home office that you use regularly your home that you use regularly and exclusively for work. You could track your mileage, right? Going to and from client. There's all sorts of things that might not be available to you as a W-2 employee. And also, like, not counting, like, the obvious expenses, like if you have an office rent, all that kind of stuff. You also, because you are both like your own boss, right? You can offer yourself a very a generous benefits package, right? So that's nice that
Mhm.
you negotiate for yourself. So that can be great. I would say that the top thing where I see people get into trouble or where they start to have challenges around working for yourself is you're also your own financial manager, which means
Mhm.
that you need to be budgeting to make sure that you're making those tax payments, right? So often, like, the most heartbreaking calls that I have are when we get to the end of the year and they send me their books, right? And I'm like, great, we're like doing taxes. And they're like, Liz, I had such a great year. I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I wish you would
Mhm.
have emailed me back when I was, like, checking in with you, like, throughout the year. And they're like,
I
"I
feel
just couldn't because I was,
attacked.
like I was so busy and it was so and I made, like, $1 bazillion dollars." And I'm just like, did you pay those
That's
estimates?"
attacked. I feel so attacked right now, Liz. Please.
I'm sorry. I'm so
Please.
sorry.
It's so this is what like you're saying, this is what happens when you try to self-manage as a 1099 or a self-employed person. It is
Yeah.
I feel like I come to my CPA every year kissing their feet and being like, You you have to keep my secret till you die. It is embarrassing."
But here's the thing, you shouldn't be embarrassed about it, but it is and it's here's the like, I think that there actually is a lot of there's is people the subject of money and taxes is
Mm,
just so loaded, and there's shame
loaded.
because you think you should
Mhm.
know about things, but and the only reason I bring these things up is just because it's just you wanna help yourself, right?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think sometimes when, like, the folks come into it and they're not looking at their stuff quarterly to figure out how much they're gonna owe, or should they be putting money aside into, like, other, retirement or making a plan around it, it's because they're, like, just avoidant, right? They don't wanna
Mhm.
look at it because they, like, don't wanna deal with taxes because they, like, for whatever reason, they don't wanna do it. I really encourage folks to just look at it. It's like exposure therapy, right? You gotta like you gotta like look at it every month. Where am I? Part of my practice is I really believe that you have to be able to talk to somebody You have to have like a clear channel to be able to talk to the person that is helping you with this. I won't take clients unless they come to me on a personal referral for somebody else who knows them and knows me and knows that we're going to be a good match. And before I'll say yes to anybody, I have to get on the phone with them and just be like, do we vibe? Because we're going to have to talk about like big, heavy things. And sometimes I get on those calls and I'm just like, I'm not your girl. Like, and you deserve to have
I remember
somebody.
that call with you.
Yeah.
I remember the call with
Dating.
you. Yes.
Well, it's really important because I want to be able to feel like I can ask questions, and I'm a person too. And so if I feel like I'm going to be hesitant to ask somebody questions, I know I'm not going to be able to help them how I need to help them. And I want folks that work with me to just not feel any hesitation, to just be like, email me or call me or be like, Liz, there's this thing, or not feel weird about asking me a question or feel like they have to apologize to me, or, like I was like,
Yeah.
you're paying me to do this thing. Like, don't feel weird. Like, this is literally what my job is. Like, I would love to help you. And so I think it's really important to have a clear channel with the person that you're working with, because it's hard enough as it is, and those numbers are difficult enough as it is, to have a good working relationship. I just feel like it's actually like non-negotiable.
I love that. And I will say, we have had so many CPAs over the years, way more than we've had financial planners. But both of them are really, really tricky to find a good match, because so many of them talk to my husband and I in this like coded language that is their primary, like language, and they have this fluency around things. And we don't know what we don't know. We've made so many expensive mistakes because we're the very first in both of our families to do so many things. And it's really challenging to find a professional that explains things in multiple ways so that we can understand it, explains things simply, is not offended if we slow them down and are like, wait, can you clarify? What do you mean? And just, it is so, so difficult. And like, I cannot tell you the number of CPAs we've had that just talk to us like we're idiots, and we end up feeling like idiots. Because like I remember we had a call with a CPA and our financial planner. This was our last CPA, and this was like what the straw that broke the camel's back, where we were like, we are getting hammered on our taxes. We are in that 45% tax bracket. It is killing us. What are our options? And they were like, you're W-2, there's no options. But like, not even talking to us about, for example, moving towards assets that we're making money from, like not even anything around that. They were just like, you have these 4 options, you need to max them out. Not any other anything. They were so annoyed that we were asking, and that we were like, no, there's got to be other ways to transition us a little bit, unless there's anything else you wanted to add about 1099s. But let's give that some airtime.
The long exhale.
You've given us a lot of the big mistakes as we've had this conversation that people make. Please add any that 1099s especially may have missed, because you went deep on W-2s, which I appreciate. But like talking about the ultra wealthy, and this is, I swear to God, like the primary content that is on TikTok. It's just different ways, but like they're either like,
so it's exactly what we were talking about. Okay. It's asset based. So what the ultra wealthy are doing is they own things. They own stock. They own land. Like, I don't know, pick your flavor, right? And so then what they do is they never get rid of the thing. What they do is they borrow against it.
Oh,
right? So let's say I have, I don't know, stock. Let's say I own, let's say I'm Elon Musk, right? Let's say I owe $1 squadrillion. I control $1 squadrillion worth of Tesla stock, right? So I never get rid of my stock. What I do is I take increasing loans to live my life against my stock. So then it's kind of, it's based on,
I know. We take a loan on
Yeah.
the stock
clock.
to
I've never heard of
live
them before.
life, like to pay
Yep.
for their everyday expenses?
Yeah.
How does one
Because what it's
Please
based
continue.
on, which is based on, is your assets are appreciating, right? So
Okay.
as my stock becomes worth more, so let's say I owe, I'm just going to make up numbers. I
Mhm.
own, it's actually more than this, $200 million worth of stock.
Mhm.
So I take out a loan against, let's call it 10 million, right? And now I need more. Well, so all of this is based on the next time I go in to, let's say I burn through my 10 million. I need some more. But like the bank knows I'm good for it because look at how much stock I have.
Stock's doing well.
Stock's doing well. And now it's not worth 200 million. Now it's worth 275 million. So now my cap is raised. So I'd like another 10 million, please.
I just didn't even realize you can. Are we talking about Elon
Oh,
Musk
Borrow
can do it because he
against
owns
that.
the company,
Oh,
or
yeah.
myself as a
100.
stock owner of
Yeah. You
random
borrow
stock?
against it. Or you can borrow against like hard assets, like real estate.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I'm like assets, right? Because I mean, we're probably
But they
maybe in
borrow
our
to
generation,
live?
we might not. Oh yeah, like they're
S-
like Jeff Bezos' salary was like $80,000.
Sure.
What
'Cause
is he
he's rich.
borrowing against?
W-2
Amazon. Yeah, like I think it's like 80 or $70. So like W-2, he's borrowing against Amazon stock.
to live life. He
Every
doesn't care that he has to pay it back at an interest?
Of course not.
what it just keeps appreciating.
With what morals?
So now there's more to pay it back from, so it doesn't even matter.
How can that makes
What
sense.
the?
But is that something that a regular rego could do?
Like, how do we do this? We're a new time.
Right.
We've just
Okay,
passed
right.
stability.
No, I got it. Right, I know that. So, but this is why I want to talk to people about getting out of like the W-2 train and getting
Mhm.
into any kind of asset that feels right to you, because you have to have something that's going to kind of throw off some passive income, low tax income, even if it's just a little interest, a little dividend, a little right? And now you've got a thing. So if anything ever goes down, and the more you can get of that thing, the more you can
Borrow.
kind of hoard of this thing. It could
Uh-huh.
be real estate, it could be bonds, it could be stock, right? Now you have a thing. If you got into a real jam, you could borrow against it. You're not going to ever get rid of it. That's the trick. You don't get rid of your shit. You borrow against it.
This universe
And you
sell
just
your
let it
stock.
appreciate it. And you don't sell it. You just borrow against it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This makes sense to me in terms of property, and it like makes my
Mhm.
elders happy because they're like, you buy the expensive house and then you can okay, fine, your house poor, but then you
Yeah.
can borrow against your expensive house and do
Mhm.
XYZ. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing at this point it's like you go to your financial planner to fill out what that XYZ is, right? Even like
Yeah.
what the asset
Exactly.
is correct for you. And then you're like, even if I did borrow against it, I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not going to go to this. I'm not going to space. So like, where then does that money go to continue to grow it? That's like a financial planner
Yeah. So you want to
question.
obviously you want to do that smart. And so you can kind of participate in this kind of strategy at a smaller scale. So maybe like you're not, you know what I mean? But like the closer that you can get to it, where you have like the dream situation is to get more and more of your income. You know what I mean? Like first it's
Yes.
5% of your income comes from dividends and interest and stuff like that. And then maybe you take that and you reinvest part of it, or you're able to kind of portion off some of your income to kind of, like I said, move more and more of the income that you're living on to be from that kind of passive category.
This is amazing. Can
Yeah.
you give us other ideas of just so we can expand our thinking a little bit? We know
Yeah.
about stocks, right? We did
Mhm.
not know about bonds, certainly not municipal bonds. We know about real estate. Are
Yeah.
there other more passive? So it's not running a business or buying a business, but are there other passive
Those are
income?
probably the big ones.
Those are the big ones. Okay.
Right. And so then the other part of it is we did skip over some stuff in like 1099s. If you are getting
Talk to us.
1099s and you are netting over 100 or 120, you got to get out of being a Schedule C, right? You have got
Okay.
to be thinking about because again, so this is the part, this is like a big one that I see is, maybe you get seduced by that SEP IRA contribution, that big 56 out, and be like, oh, it's so big. I could put so much away. I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, meh, I don't like it for you, because when we get to that level where you could be putting that max away, that means you've really blown past, that 100 or 120 mark. And what we really want to look for there is, again, what you want to think about is all that money that when you're self-employed is all subject to federal taxes, state taxes, and self-employment tax. So the move, if you're self-employed, is you're always going to have some of that income subject to employment taxes, just because like Caesar wants what is Caesar's, right? But you have to get as much as you can out of that, where you can kind of just get this as just subject to straight income tax. And so the move with that is, like, if you're above 100 or 120 net, you probably want to think about moving into kind of an S-Corp situation. So then you can participate in the company both as a W-2, right? And you're going to want, here's the other thing. Remember I told you everybody gets like you actually want that to be the lowest reasonable salary that you can possibly take. And so I will say, for folks that are first generation coming into wealth, it feels weird to set your salary low. But it's okay. It's okay. Because you're still going to get all your monies. We're just going to take them out as distributions of profit as an owner. And when you take them out as distributions of profit as an owner, those are just going to be subject to income tax rates. So you're going to not have to pay the employment taxes on that. And the employment taxes are about 12.5%. So it's pretty significant. Are you going to have to manage your estimated taxes? Yes, you are. But you will have this pile of money that will comfort you as you feel annoyed paying the estimated taxes.
You gave so many juicy things that, like, genuinely, I didn't even realize there are other paths, right? And I think that's the absolute best thing to come out of a New Dimes radio conversation with our experts is like, wait, I didn't know you could do that. Wait, slow down, say it again. Wait. Like, whoa. Because otherwise,
100%.
this information gets, it's cloistered in a certain part of the internet, or it goes only as far as the reach of, like, the people who know. So this is, my brain is like.
And I think, like, for me, so much of, like, what I've tried to do with Liz's All Biz and, like, how I kind of got into it was just like, when I started it, I was making money for people who already had plenty of money. Like, I worked for Chanel Beauty. I was like, they're doing just fine. And let me tell you, I love some fancy lipstick. I love some perfume. I love it. It was great. It was wonderful. I had a really cute suit. But at a point, it was just like, I wish other people knew this. I wish people that I actually, like, care about, had this information. And so when I started Liz's All Biz, it, like, for me, it's been all about just, like, education, like educating my clients, educating my team to go out into, like, as they've spun out their businesses, to go out into their specific communities, and, like, bring this with them. So
I love this so much.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners where to find you, what kind of clients you want to work with? Is there any opportunity that you want to, like, shout from the mountaintops? There are going to be people after this who are like, so Liz is my tax person now. How can they support you or interact with you?
I would say probably the best place to find me, I do have a website, lizisallbiz.com. But really where I'm active is I'm actually on Instagram, because I literally cannot stop talking about taxes. So come find me on there. I've put out a ton of educational content. So there is videos on there about every subject that you could possibly imagine. I'm also a political junkie, so I'm often on there with, like, hot takes on what's going on, and I do have a newsletter that is usually tax related politics. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild.
Love
So
it.
come find me on my website. Yeah.
We just launched our Substack, so maybe we can, like, have you as a guest contributor. Very excited about it. That is awesome, and it's Liz's All Biz, right? On the
Liz's
gram.
All Biz.
Thank you so much, Liz. Again, we will add all of your contact information to the transcript, but thank you again. This was awesome.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right.